Hey,
Hey,
how are y'all doing today? Good. Glad to hear it, man.
good.
I pray you've had a great day. I pray that you have a great day if you're watching this early in the morning and you have not yet started your day. And friends, listen, I know you're like, oh, they're back in the bed. This is going to be good. And you're right. It is going to be good. Listen, today I want to talk about intimacy. That's right, intimacy, or into me I see.
Mm.
Yes. So, anyhow, listen, we're going to go to Proverbs real quick. Proverbs chapter number 6. I'm sorry, chapter 5. And let's look at verse number 15. It says, drink water from your own cistern, water flowing from your own well. Should your springs flow in the streets, streams of water in the public squares? They should be for you alone and not for you to share with strangers. Let your fountain be blessed and take pleasure in the wife of your youth, a loving doe, a graceful fawn. Let her breasts always satisfy you. Be lost in her love forever. My son, would you be infatuated with a forbidden woman or embrace the breast of a stranger? For a man's ways are before the Lord's eyes, and he considers all his paths. Friends, I want to stop right there. Simply because today, as we talk about intimacy, I want to talk about really taking the time to enjoy and get to know your spouse. And if you're not married, there is a level of intimacy that can be had and reached within the single mindset that is so wonderful and so fantastic. One of the things that I enjoyed as Kristen and I were dating and getting to know each other is I just enjoyed when I remember it was one night we were so just trying to enjoy each other's company, and we were trying to get to know each other so much that we literally walked about what 3-4 miles one way,
Yeah.
just talking. We went out to the there's this little river walk sort of deal. It's a walk right beside the river. We walked from the boat launch all the
In
way
flip
down,
flops, child. I
and
was in
she
flip
was in flip
flops.
flops. And we walked all the way down to the end of it, turned around, and came back to where we had parked. And I mean, total, it was probably
It was worth the walk,
it
though.
was it was definitely worth the walk. And by the time it was done, I had learned so much about her. I had gotten to know her in such a real way. She had gotten to hear my heart on a lot of issues. And so that was just number one, a level of intimacy for us. And one of the things, I have to share this, that was so great about it is that night, it was an opportunity as we were walking for us to even get a little bit close and to
Mm.
really break some barriers. And I remember, I have this thing that my mom taught me about how a woman should never walk on the side where cars are passing or where there's possibilities of danger. And so, again, we're walking on this river walk and there's a side where the bushes are. And I said, look, I grabbed her by her waist and I moved her over here. And I was like, look, you need to be over here because something could jump out and get you.
And I'm like, he touched me.
And it was a level of intimacy for us. It was a way for us to break some barriers
Like, I
and
ain't never been touched like that, child,
mm.
before.
And so intimacy is not always about sex, but so many times we make it about sex
Mm-hmm.
and we prove our love through sex. But what I want you to see and understand today is that intimacy is more than just sex. Intimacy is so much more than that.
Yeah.
Even when you look at Songs of Solomon and you look at some of his songs, he describes his woman's body and things down to the teeth, from the hair to the teeth to the eyes to everything. He
Mm-hmm.
can describe because he's paid attention to her. He knows all about her.
Yeah.
And so, when you're even in your singleness, pay attention to those things. Look at your woman, get to know her. And I remember, that my wife reached a level of intimacy with me when we were single where when I would come home or get off of work, she would either pick me up from work because my car had stopped working, or either I'd come over to her house when my car was working, and she would cook for me. And she cooked some of my favorite meals, like she cooked this salmon one time and all that. And I was like, oh my gosh! And it got us to a level of intimacy that was just so deep and so real. And we did all this before we even kissed. And we even got to a level of intimacy again in our singleness.
Yeah.
I remember it was one night we were just sitting playing Scrabble, and we were just talking, making jokes, telling each other stories of our childhood and how I always played Scrabble as a kid with my mom and my sister, and my mom would make us look up words in the dictionary and all that kind of stuff. And she learned so much about me. I learned so much about her. And so intimacy goes beyond just having sex. And even, we talked about it already when we talked about, bad sex and all of that. But if intimacy starts in every part of your day, especially, I'm speaking from a male standpoint. Kristen's going to talk from the women's standpoint in a minute. Men, if we would take the time to listen to her stories, listen to her day, respond, and do little things to help her out, and not just come home and just be like, look, don't bother me. I'm going to drink this beer. I'm going to watch some sports, and we might talk later, or I may just want to go to bed and have sex. And that's it. Don't bother me. And I may give you a few words between plays or between the commercials, whatever. But friends, listen, intimacy is so much deeper. Try coming home, and the first thing you do is give your wife a kiss. Ask her how her day was, and truly respond and listen and all of that. And give her a portion and a time of your day. Because, when we comes down to being intimate with the Holy Spirit and with God, it's more than just having sex, because you can't have sex with God or the Holy Spirit.
Right.
But what you can do is you pray to Him, you listen, you seek out His presence, and all of that equates to intimacy with God. And the more you become intimate with God, the more you learn about you, and the more you become intimate with your spouse, with your wife. Men, the more you will find out about you. The more you may find out you really weren't a good listener. More you may find out that the things that you thought you were excelling in, you really weren't. You were kind of lacking in some things. When you really take the time to listen to what she's saying, then respond to those things and act accordingly to what she has said to you and what you've heard in those moments. Babe?
You're right. Intimacy with God is definitely the most important.
Yeah.
It's especially in those days where the journey to intimacy in your marriage, it is a process.
It is.
And it goes in seasons.
Yes.
And you have to be patient. And you have to be willing to work through any bumps or hiccups in the middle of it. If your husband or wife isn't a full communicator, you have to grow in communication. You have to grow in listening. You have to grow in chipping in. You have to grow out of yourself into a unit.
Right.
A cohesive unit that works together. And it does not happen overnight.
It doesn't. And I'm going to interject just because you said something there. You talk about growing into becoming a listener or growing into this thing. It doesn't happen overnight. My wife will tell you, one of our biggest things has always been that I could listen to what she was saying. And I am a great listener, but I don't always respond. I'm growing into it. I'm trying to do better. But that was one of our issues. And she's told me, like, sometimes talking to you is just like talking to these walls. But my issue is I'm a processor. So she'll talk to me. I'll hear what she's saying, and then maybe later I'll come back with a response.
A day later, 2 days later, randomly.
Right.
Like, I think you're right about such and such. And I'm like, what is he talking about? Oh, okay, I didn't think you were listening to me.
See, when you listen to your wife, you'll understand that you may not have it all down like you thought you did. Go ahead, babe.
You have to work through that, because I went through periods of anger and resentment because I'm like, I need you to respond, like say or nod your head. I don't need you just looking straight at the wall. Like, as women, we get into the conversation and we're like engaged, and I'm listening, and I'm like, girl, what? Okay, it's like that. And even with God, like my relationship with God is, I'm talking to him, but I feel his presence. I feel a response. He's living. He's real. He's tangible.
Right.
I'm not just talking to the air and hoping that he hears me.
Right.
He hears my prayers, and I hear him, and he speaks to me, and we have a relationship. So transitioning into someone that I'm talking and he's just like not saying anything at all, doesn't really sit well with me. I need you to say something, to talk back, because that's what humans do. That's what people in relationships do. And men, you may feel like women, they just tap, 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 just talk my ears off. But another thing I learned is all this talking and these thoughts that I was having wasn't necessarily for me to voice them to my husband, but was for me to talk to God about it and to write it down.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff that's running through my head has definitely become a book. I write it in my notes in my phone.
Right.
Like all of these thoughts, sometimes I want to let him in on it, and I do let him in.
Yeah.
But to not get upset with him and overwhelm him, he only can do so much. He's a man, and he has his own life and his own thoughts that he has to govern accordingly. And who am I to just want him to sit down and listen to me talk for an hour about what's been on my mind, when it really should be in a book, or I should be journaling or talking to the Lord about it and processing it that way. A lot of times we just need an outlet. We just need to get it out.
Right.
And he may not always be the one to get it out too.
Yeah. And again, I
for
also,
that long.
Yeah, right. I also want to encourage you, again, it's more than just sometimes conversation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Intimacy can go as deep or as whatever as, you know what? Let me go wash her car, clean out, put some gas in her car. You know what I mean? Like sometimes to a woman, those things make a difference. Those things matter. It's just, a friend of mine, before I got married, gave me this one piece of advice, and I've tried to adhere to it. I'm not perfect with it yet, but I'm getting there. And he said that everything that you do throughout the day is foreplay. Everything is foreplay. So when you wake up in the morning and you say, "Good morning, baby," and you kiss her, that's foreplay. Or even if you're single, you wake up and you say, "Good morning," and you through the text, because
Good morning, Lord.
I don't think y'all are sleeping together if y'all are single. I'm playing, but listen, I'm serious. Send that good morning text, and just check on her. How did you sleep? That sort of thing if you're single. And then that's one of the things that I've come to understand with my wife is that every part of the day is foreplay. So in the mornings, I say, "Hey, babe, how did you sleep? What did you dream about last night? Really?" It's all foreplay. Even, doing something as simple as just reaching over, holding her hand. God is calling for us to get back to a place of intimacy. Intimacy is more than just sex. And we're not that disconnected couple anymore where the husband come home, read his paper, and the wife just cleans up and cooks and takes care of the kids. No, it's more than that now. Now, as men, we have to learn how to be meets with our wife, how to help them as they help us, how to pour into them as they pour into us. Intimacy goes so much more deeper than just having sex.
And for a woman, it has to be a mental connection. The biggest part of foreplay is the mental connection. Does he listen to me? Does he Does he hear what I'm saying?
Right.
Does he care? Or even can he teach me? Like that is a big turn on if he has some knowledge in between those ears and he can speak to me about things that I didn't know myself. Like, those are things that will get a woman, you know, prepared for whatever you want her to do.
And another thing, and again, I'm trying to cut this, but the Lord is just speaking.
Yeah.
Another thing is, men, take time to give her the things that matter to her, that she cares about. When my wife and I first got married, we were living in our apartment. One of the things that meant so much to my wife, she was working and God had me doing ministry, is when she could come home and have a vegan meal prepared for her, because she was vegan. And so I'd have like black bean burgers made from scratch, prepared for her. And oh my gosh, it just touched her in such a special way. I made them like a month and a half ago. So vegan black bean burgers, or just anything that I made, like the stuff that she liked. And I used to buy my wife a lot of flowers, but I realized, or I've come to understand as I listened, that my wife doesn't really care about flowers. She doesn't like flowers. But if I got her a cactus or a succulent, apparently that does something.
Or ladybugs. A ladybug farm. He got me a ladybug farm. He listened and he got me a ladybug farm. I was so excited.
You see? Intimacy. Intimacy is so much more than sex. And men, I want to help you. Women, I want to help you. Couples, we want to help you have better, deeper, more meaningful relationships. We talked a few days ago about relationship goals.
Goals.
Listen, if one of your relationship goals is to have a longer, meaningful, lasting relationship, I encourage you, by all means, get to know your partner. Spend time with them intimately, not sexually, intimately, talking with them, doing things that they like to do, getting to know them in a real and relevant way. And you will have those marriages like that, like our grandparents, lasted 60, 70, and 80 years. Friends, I want to encourage you today, build a stronger foundation. And in truth, again, for my single people, it starts when you're dating. If you get it right when you're dating, it's not as hard when you're married. I promise you, So let me encourage you. Work on it.
We love you.
We love you.
Be blessed.
You be blessed.